Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show. This is one of those rare opportunities we had to have not just one, but two, and if I add Mercedes, three sharp minds dealing with the forecasting of where in the world the blizzard of economic uncertainty is going to land, you and me. Because one thing is for certain, and that is that the Bible talks about the last days as a time of shaking. And one of the areas it comes down to is no man can buy or sell. There's a lot of language in there, apocalyptically, about economics. And so most believers don't really cover that until you start getting to retirement age, and then you start paying attention a little bit. But I want you to be conversant on the subject right now, because knowledge is power. And my folks here, we got Mercedes Sparks here wearing green in the she's getting in her fall festival state right now, which I'm happy to see. Me, I'm classic, red tie and blue shirt, but I want to bring in the financial survival experts, in my opinion, Chad Frantzen and cousin Billy. Cousin, you are first of all the one who began telling me years ago what you felt was coming, and you began early getting in on this thing, and I could kick myself for not listening to you earlier when you were just soaring up there in the rare air with your secret formulas, and now you're sitting on top. People are hunting you down all the time to give them advice, and so you've got Chad Frantzen in there as your partner. It's kind of like the two of you, like the dynamic duo, and you've got him handling a whole echelon of inquiry regarding investment strategies. But let me just start the broadcast off with a question, cousin.
Okay.
Now, a lot of folks don't understand what's going on in Washington, the imperial capital city, where I've come to discover that the Republicans and the Democrats are actually one melded entity, making believe they have differences, but behind the scenes, they are really part of the same machinery. When it comes to spending, neither of them are representing the working class American. I'm convinced that's half the reason why they hate populist movements and populist candidates like Trump. And I believe that people are getting educated all the time. Our audience, along with the war room with Ben and the Flashpoint Armor, we have all kinds of words for our audience, but we are the populace, we are the people, we are the working class citizens that are carrying and praying through America through this crisis. Cousin, we are $2 trillion a year now on top of $30 trillion in debt. 2 trillions out of alignment, and then there's no awareness, it seems, as to how this is going to ultimately affect inflation and jobs in America, and that's what partially makes me worry about what message God is sending America right now. But you and I, as believers, have to still steward what we've got in the face of this fiscal mismanagement. So where do you see this going? I seem to think electoral realities are going to come home. They got a presidential election cycle, and there's going to be obviously Senate-elect, got several seats that are going to be up in the Senate, 17 in the House that are going to be in swing states. I'm wondering if the economics play out badly in the streets for groceries, cost of energy. It's going to have a direct consequence on the psychic strategies of how voters are going to be thinking going to next year's November election. So as best as you can see, where do you think this thing is going over the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, I think, one of the best ways to put it in context of where we are in the next 12 to 24 months is you just have to look back. We're sitting here right now in October of 2023. And if you go back all the way to 2010 and 11 and 12, right through there, we went through the Great Recession, of course, in 08, 09, really the beginning of 07. We had those 3 years. And then the Fed, in order to be able to address what was called the Great Recession at that time, they began lowering interest rates. And so we have now been in a period of 13 to 14 years, really 12 to 13 years of the lowest interest rates we have ever had in the history of America. And most people don't know that, because when I get up and talk about this stuff, and I say, looking at the crowd, do you realize that we have been in the lowest historical rates ever in Western nations anywhere. And most people look at me and go, no, I knew we had low interest rates, but I didn't realize they were the lowest in history. And in addition to that, we have this stimulus that we have never had in history. And we had this massive stimulus during COVID that came. We had 2 of those. And the reason I'm saying that is anytime you have interest rates that low, even without the stimulus, what you have is assets that go up in price. That's real estate, that's the stock market, and really any kind of asset that has any kind of return on it. Typically, you even have luxury goods that go up, where there's a demand on luxury goods when you have that kind of money in the market. So where I see it going now is that when you take the money supply, look at the money supply, and you look at the low interest rates, I believe that we are in an asset bubble, and that includes the stock market. And right now it includes real estate. I'd like to talk about real estate, specifically real estate, to give people some guidance on that. And so because of that, we are dealing in this inflated period that we live in where assets are overpriced. And then if you look at the normal person on Main Street having to live and work, the prices of goods and services themselves have skyrocketed, and even the Fed with raising the rates like they have, which I'll talk about that as we get in. Chad and I can talk about that. But what has happened is that now money costs more and the money supply is diminishing. So everything that people try to buy, almost everything has increased in prices. And so over the next 18 to 24 months, I actually think we are going to see asset prices drop, and it's going to be in that time of dropping that it's going to be a great opportunity. The greatest wealth transfers happen in those times when asset prices begin to drop, and so you're able to start picking up assets again. And next spring, maybe next summer into fall, somewhere through there, I believe we're going to see the stock market itself, talking about the S&P 500, I believe we're going to see it come down to 3,600, 3,400. There's other people thinking it'll be 28. I don't know if we'll get down that low, but I'm still on that 34 to 3,600 where I think the market. Remember, I told you that on this show. That's where I think we're going to go. That's where I think we're going, and we can talk about it when we get there. And then the same thing with real estate. So probably next spring or into next fall, I'm going to start buying real estate again. And I'm going to start paying cash, because it takes a while for the psychology of the market, of the people that have homes, to shift in their mindset. And by the way, the professional builders already know it. So they're offering deep discounts. They're offering buying down interest rates on mortgages. There's all kind of things they're doing right now while we're talking, because they see this coming. And they basically, for them, they realize it's already here. For Main Street America, they don't know quite yet we're here. I see houses that are still listed for the same prices they were in 2022, and that ship has sailed. So we have to know, and I'm telling you, these things are going down, but that's an opportunity in the body of Christ for us to be able to take advantage with wisdom of what the Lord is telling us to do.
Chad, I want to throw something at you while we're on the subject here. If the traditional, value storage that comes in, real estate or in stock, if there's going to be an adjustment there, there must be an opportunity also. We're talking about diversifying portfolios. Like the Bible says with Abraham, he had 7 streams of wealth. And this is where I kind of love the faith community. I mean, you guys are in a real sweet spot because you're analytically precise and values driven about how you look at economics, but you're also folks with a strong faith and word background. And Abraham prospered in all kinds of different environments. So did Isaac and Jacob, but they had diversified portfolios. And that's part of your psychology, isn't it? That from a kingdom perspective, while the traditional stock and real estate investments may be depreciating in one way, where can you go and find an opportunity to actually invest your money and make a profit in this kind of environment?
Well, you're absolutely right, Lance. I mean, you look at Abraham, you look at Solomon, both of them, God gave them wisdom to invest in ownership of a lot of different things, 6, 7, 8 different types of assets, even in biblical times. So what we coach people on at Wealth Builders Investments is if we can create a personalized kingdom strategy for how to invest, not only in real estate, not only in gold, but to look at all the different 7 mountains, which you've popularized. Let's look at each segment and wait for opportunities. What a lot of Christians are doing right now is they're fearful of what the markets may do, understandably so with the economic chaos. But if we have a plan for when the chaos hits and we can go in, as Billy has taught us on the real estate side, you make your money when you buy. And that's true if we invest in a private company, public company, or in real estate. So that's a lot of what we do. We call it the kingdom model, but I agree with Billy. There's going to be a lot of opportunities heading into the election next year because with interest rates continuing to be high, it's already starting to happen in the last couple of weeks. The markets are starting to move and shake a little bit. And if you have a strategy and you're not just going to go bury your money, like the guy who had the one talent, there is going to be immense opportunities in a lot of these different asset classes.
So let's talk about this. This is a concept, a philosophy of wealth management that is Christian, but also very Jewish, very pragmatic. You don't want to put your money into woke corporations, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the BlackRock world, in my opinion, of where they're investing in the equity and the social governance and the diversity, which is basically a Marxist formula for destroying culture by empowering, these bizarre belief systems to have board level recognition, status, and representation in your movies and such. So, but look at The Chosen, look at The Sound of Freedom. I was with the investors yesterday in these movies. The market there is making a fortune in kingdom work that is in media, in art, and in syndicated, like the Angel platform and stuff like that. So there's alternative platforms developing that are exciting because the believers are saying, hey, if we have to, we'll take our money and stop putting it into these woke corporations that are weaponized against our values. We'll put it into kingdom enterprises that are run profitably. And so when we talk about the 7 mountains, media, arts, even science and technology, or certain businesses, or in the education area, if we look for values-driven investments that are going to actually be with sharp business models, I think you're on the right track. I think I'm talking to these guys. These are practical business people, and they're making money by investing in values-driven innovation. And so you're saying that's a diversification strategy that you actually advise people on, Chad? So you'd help them find those niches that they could get into?
We do. So at Wealth Builders Investments, we have specific investment strategies, such as the ones we've talked about with you personally, where we're investing in each aspect of the 7 mountains for impact and using pro values. And so we have those strategies already in place with our research team. And one thing I want to mention, Lance, is one of the common misconceptions, it's a total lie from the pit of hell, is that if you want to invest with kingdom values in a conservative framework, that you must settle for a lower rate of return. And that is completely not true. I've got studies upon studies that I could share with you and your audience on. It's just a complete lie. I had a client even this week tell me, I'm not sure I want to follow your approach because I don't want to miss out on investing in Google. And I just said, well, why? I mean, because you can still adhere to your values and get actually a higher rate of return. There's some studies that some friends of ours did where if you actually pick the remnant of public companies that were run by Christian men and women, and there is a remnant, about 5% of public companies are faith-driven, They may not put themselves out there like a Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby, but they're faith-driven internally. They have much higher employee retention, higher shareholder returns. And that makes sense to us and our audience because we know that what Jesus taught on money, if we applied it, it would have favor and blessing. But it actually works when you invest in the secular world.
Mercedes, you helped to put together something for our people, which is a financial survival guide, upgraded page. I don't know. Can you bring that up right now? And what could people do that could they could take action on that would help educate them on what strategies these guys would recommend?
Yeah, well, like you were just talking about working with companies that are Christian. One of the reasons like Billy and Chad decided to team up here is that when it comes to your investments, whether you have them in a Fidelity or wherever you have your investments, you're still working with perhaps people that don't share your worldview. And like you were just talking about ESG, and which actually that term's doing away with. Now it's like economic justice or something like that. Sure. But anyways, you want to be with investment advisors that share your worldview. And so that is what Chad and Billy have to offer. So what's great is here's what we did. So Chad and Billy are actually Lance and Annabelle's financial advisors. And we just love them so much. Everybody calls up and they're like, oh, tell us more about cousin, right? Cousin Billy. But what we decided to do is, we want to bring the same resources that we're actually using to you guys because the opportunity is coming. Like you heard Chad and Billy talk about this next year with the economic uncertainty, you want to have the right plan in place. So we did two things. One, you can go to the web address that's on the screen. So it's lancewallnau.com/stormproof. And you can download this special guide that as we go into the economic uncertainty next year, you want to be prepared. In the midst of the storm, God gave Noah a plan for a boat that would float. And so this is your plan and this is our gift to you. All right. But you also want to get in contact with him. You could make an appointment right now and talk to Chad about all of the things we're discussing and figure out what is the best investment strategy for you going into 2024 and beyond. So that's what we've done. Go check it out. And so anyways, I just thought it'd be a great thing to do for people.
Do it now. Do it now. And like they said, the truth be told, Annabelle has been more involved with Chad, and I got to catch up because thank God, I don't know if you guys are couples out there listening, like maybe one of you is more like the breadwinner and the other one's more the one that writes the checks and keeps track of the budget, everything. Annabelle's the one who's really spearheading what to do for the future. And so she's the one that's really getting in and out. Now I'm catching up. Used to embarrass me because she'd call Cousin Billy over if she had a question, like on a property or real estate. I said, you can't bother the guy and call him up and just call him up out of the blue with a question. But she didn't mind. She said, hey, it's Cousin. She just called him up. And to your credit, Cousin, you'd answer the call and coach her through. And whatever question she had, she felt she got your number. She's calling Cousin. I would tell her, how can you bother the guy? He's running all this business all the time. Anyway, but I'm catching up on it. So now, Chad, now you're teasing out something here. If real estate in the future looks like it's going to be good, where would you go? Like I understand you do exclusive one-on-one financial consultation. So I guess that means that if somebody has a lot to work with, you have one strategy. If they have a little, if they're willing to risk, you go one way. If they have minimal risk, then you invest another way. I mean, give me an idea of some of the things that you might suggest to people so that you can get them thinking.
Yeah, great question, Lance. So obviously everyone, different age, different stage of life and different asset level, different employment level. And so the key part, my background as a certified financial planner is really to, Billy, I think you coined the phrase financial pastoring. It's really getting to know people at a personal level as it revolves around, their finances and the decisions, whether it's retirement or college, or they want to be extra generous with giving to ministries that they support. How do they do that? So the one-on-one consultation that we're offering, and I know, Lance, when you and I were together at the tent revival this summer, we talked about this of it's great to give a free download and we want to give away free resources, but we want to get in the kitchen, so to speak, and talk about the recipes on how to create a personalized plan. And that's what these one-on-one consults are for. A lot of people that come to the Wealth Builders Real Estate Workshops, they learn how to start investing in single family real estate. A lot of people need to learn how to invest in retirement accounts. So each family, in my opinion, needs a personalized financial strategy. And, you need to think about how to protect your money. You need to think about how to minimize taxes. You need to protect against creditors. It's not just, well, what's the next hot and flashy investment? If we can invest in something in media, that may be there, but it really starts kind of in the kitchen, creating a personalized recipe. So that's what we do at Wealth Builders, investments on that front.
And you guys, it is pretty, I would say, because I've seen what you've done with Lance and Annabelle. You have like an entire investment dashboard. You take an inventory of what everybody has. So just so our listeners out there, like if they've got IRAs, if they have, other retirement accounts, a stock portfolio, maybe at a different company, how does that work? Like, what can they expect when they reach out to you and they set up an appointment?
Yeah, so we would do the initial consult, and then we have an intake form that you would complete, kind of to give us an overview of your personal balance sheet, if you will, just so we know kind of where you are with things. And then we would look through that balance sheet with you and go over it, ask some questions, kind of where you are. Certain people are going to have a higher tolerance for risk or maybe a longer time horizon. And so those type of questions, much like a doctor needs to know your situation. So we do the consult, they fill out an intake form so that we can get a better idea of where they are. To your point, Mercedes, do they have IRAs or 401ks? Many in your audience, Lance, are entrepreneurs. They own businesses. They run ministries. They're going to have some specific questions about how to manage finances within the ministry, like a 501c3 or a corporation if they're entrepreneurs. And so we get real granular on that to create the plan and then implement it and then monitor it and educate them on it.
I have a real quick question. It may seem to be a little bit random here. To some random quick question. People do this to me all the time. They put me on TV shows, then ask me these wild questions. So Annabelle's telling me something. She's talking to you about tax strategies. And what is it about, like we're in Texas, we got all this land out here. There are people that actually have animals. So they get animals on their property, and that produces a taxable income change, or beehives. I'm also hearing, what are you talking to my wife about? Can you tell me what is going on right now? Beehives. What's the story with that?
Well, Lance, I have a friend who, and Billy, you know him, that every time he introduces me to somebody, he says, Chad, tell him about the giraffes. and that's I'm like the giraffe guy now. So it's so there is the tax strategy. Billy and I are both from Texas. A couple things are really big in Texas: oil and gas, right, Billy, and then ranching. And so both ranching and oil and gas have very clear tax benefits in the IRS tax code if you invest in them. So one of the things we've done is what we call wildlife conservation. It's a form of ranching that's super popular in South Texas, near where Billy and Becky are from. And it is a genuine business model, cash flow generator. It's a feel-good conservation story, but it's a really good, Billy, as you would say, non-correlated investment that we use.
What does that mean, non-correlated, Cousin Billy? Break it down for us simple folks.
It means that it moves differently in different economic environments. So let's take, for example, in the environment we're in now with high interest rates, and we feel that asset prices are going to go down, the wildlife investment, where it's so powerful, is, let's say someone, just to try to keep the numbers even and round, if someone had $100,000 to invest and they were going to invest it in, let's say, into the Wildlife Partners, the first year they would get approximately a $91,000, $92,000 tax write-off. It means they get to count that money they put into the wildlife directly against their income that year if they had that money to invest, which is powerful. But then the non-correlated, so it has a major tax benefit. And then secondly, the non-correlated part is that the value of these animals, these are exotic animals we're talking about, So these are not, cows, or horses. These are exotic animals. And these exotic animals, the price of those, because of the rarity and the scarcity of those animals, is not as much affected, directly affected by the economic environment, primarily because those who are actually buying them, they're the wealth level of those that are actually getting, not just investing in them like we're talking about, but actually those that are buying those animals, they're not as affected in a down economy. In fact, those kind of buyers actually make more money in a down economy. So there's still value on those animals. And because of that, for example, you see the stock market going down. While the stock market itself could go down, or the price of real estate could go down, the price of these exotic animals can actually go up. So you have a twofold strategy there. You get that tax write-off up front, and then in addition to that, you have a non-correlated asset. Just means a diversified asset that's not moving the same. And so when you start looking at that and understanding it, it lowers your risk level if you're able to do what Chad was talking about in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, where Solomon wrote, you invest in 7 or 8 different things. And one of the reasons he said that is because one thing will go up in a certain environment, another thing will go down. And so in this case right now, the wildlife animal has been such a new strategy in a good way from a tax perspective. It's also become an excellent investment strategy that doesn't move the same as some of the other assets that we've been talking about.
Well, that explains the llamas I've been seeing every now and then. You've been talking to somebody about an exotic animal. I'm thinking, who needs a llama? But now I understand, Billy. You've explained it. So if we were to go now to the Stormproof, get the download, the guide, and get that exclusive financial one-on-one consulting, some people might be reluctant to call in, but what is the first thing that you typically are advising people, or what's the first aha? Because we only got a little time left on this, but people frequently are having ahas when they talk to you. Give me a common aha. I didn't know that you run into, Chad, when you're talking to people.
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is how much people don't realize the amount they pay in taxes. And they think that they've been doing tax planning, but they really haven't. That's a big aha when we talk. We're not even talking investments. We're just talking high-level planning, but the rate that people are actually paying on taxes, when there's very, very straightforward, down the middle of the fairway planning tools you can use to lower your taxes. That's a big aha.
Wow. I think that's an aha for me just thinking about it, because there's some CPAs whose main goal is to try to avoid audits, and they're just trying to avoid mistakes. So they're not taking you into the full realm of the possibility of what you're capable of doing, because they're just trying to avoid trouble, but they're not actually exploring what you've got. My dad used to do my taxes when I was younger, and I no one ever did my taxes since then like he would do. He would say, "You buy a lot of magazines, don't you? I'll bet you buy," and he'd go look at the maximum deductions. "I'll bet you're buying $900 worth of books. You're a Christian. You're buying books." And he'd fill that and go, "Dad, now I'm a conscientious Christian. I'm afraid he's falsifying data before the Lord." But he maximized every deduction. I haven't seen anybody do that for me since my dad did my taxes. Cousin, how about you? What's a typical aha that people have when they're in your classes or they're talking to you?
Well, I think the first thing is the taxes that Chad said, but I think the second thing that happens is that there's other things to invest in and other approaches to take, whether you're doing it personally, in other words, you're buying real estate yourself, or you're doing some other form of investing, and the returns that they can be. I'll give you an example. I talk about real estate, and one of the things I do is I show someone in a very quick, short way how you can get 100% return a year, what we call a cash on cash return. And most of them, they look at me like, I call it like a calf at a new gate. They don't know, can I believe him or not believe him? And then I break it down, I slow down, and then they start looking like a puppy at a new pan. they're at a new food pan and they're kind of tilting their heads, and we explain it, and the aha happens when they realize this is really real. This actually happens in the real world. And so they go 100% return. For example, I'll use an example of if you buy a property and you put $10,000 down, or you buy a property and you have to put $100,000 down, $150,000 down. How can you get, for example, 100% return, a cash-on-cash return on your money? And I use a combination of rent, tax write-offs, and also appreciation on the house, and just show them. And so the appreciation is not cash, but by the time that I put the rent in there, depending on the investment, and the write-off, if they get the full write-off, it ends up being 100% cash-on-cash return. So when they look at that, they go, wow, I've never heard of anything like that. So that's one of those things. But I think the other thing that really matters to Chad and I right now is the importance of the pro values in kingdom investing. And the aha moment that happens is when they realize that these companies really are, other kinds of companies really are investing in things that have kingdom impact and are actually getting a good return. The biggest aha moment is when they understand that by investing in some of these companies that do practice this ESG, and they are against, for example, a biblical worldview, you would be majorly surprised at what those companies are putting money into, what they support in their employee base, and the kind of things that they stand for. And so that becomes a mega aha moment for people that really, they don't understand that, man, there's some crazy stuff going out there with these companies that is just, you don't hear it every day in the media, but when you start looking at the reports, it's amazing.
I agree. So listen, we went a little bit over today, but I got a lot out of this, as I always do. I want to thank both of you, because I learned again that the values companies are frequently some of the more profitable investments you can get into. And as I said, I just sat around with a group of very successful business people, all sharing what they're doing with their businesses, and they're all making profits. And a lot of them are in the 7 mountains. They're all 7 mountain leaders: education, business, media, entertainment, and in new science and technology. In fact, even though the market may be going down, there's going to be some breakout technology that's going to go up.
Absolutely.
Simply because within the realm that they're in, there's a demand for it. And you guys are keeping your eye on that. And I think that the kingdom investment, diversified, values-driven scenario is the way to go. I encourage all of you, once again, you want to get your free financial survival guide. And to do that, you want to go to lancewallnau.com/stormproof. For those of you that are listening and not watching our handsome panel here, it's Lance Wallnau, WALLNAU.com/stormproof. And our lovely Mercedes, of course, is to be included in our handsome panel.
He said handsome. I was like, what? I'm over here like, excuse me?
You're not a potted plant. You're over here doing something. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to sign up today. But listen, cousin Chad, we'll be talking to you soon. And I can't thank you enough for being available as kingdom consultants for wealth creation in these unstable times. My people perish for lack of knowledge. With you on board, they could never have a lack of knowledge, just a lack of initiative. They need to get a hold of you and get the concept. It costs nothing to get free advice. And the fact that you guys are available makes it powerful. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.